Good evening and welcome to Gaming with Scott presents Behind the Masks, a Southgate media production. In this series, our heroes remove their masks so that you, the listener, can learn more about the player behind the character. We discuss topics of interest and encourage our players to go off the rails and down the rabbit hole. We hope this helps our audience get to know us better. Discussions and insights begin just after this music. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Behind the Masks. I am here with Josh Elliott.
I have no idea what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, you do. So here's the thing. Josh made the comment. He said, I really want to go into villainy with you. And this is not the podcast where we're going to talk about villainy and how to build a villain and how to work villainy. But you made the statement, okay, slide that back over in front of your face. You made this a little bit more. There you go. No, not towards you, just side to side. Because you were turning away and looking at me. Okay. You made a statement that you think I do villainy well.
I think you get villainy because I think in your MO in life, you understand villainy. But I think you have...
What makes you say that? I mean, what?
Because I've played...
I'm not a villain, right? Not in real life, right?
You can be.
Really?
Scott, I think we both know that if you want something bad... If I'm threatening your family...
face murder. Murder.
Wait. But I'm powerful. So you can't just...
Face murder.
Run up and face murder me in broad daylight.
Right.
We both know you and I go into a certain, mode.
Right, we both said at the same time, mode. Okay.
So you get villainy. I mean, but I think you are so used to maintaining the masquerade, so to speak.
Okay, so for those of our listeners that don't know what that is, what is that?
So in the World of Darkness games, specifically Vampire the Masquerade, and all the vampire games, there's this concept that vampires exist, but they hide their true nature from humanity. This hiding is called the masquerade, and they have to maintain it, the facade of being mortal, of not existing.
So the idea that the mortals, those not in the game, or more specifically, those not outside of normal life, should not know that you're doing what you're doing.
Right. And so you maintain the masquerade on your own villainy so much, I think, that you actually have a difficult time laying it bare, which is what a storyteller has to do with a villain.
Right. So what led to me hitting the record button so quickly was because I had made the statement of that I didn't think I knew villainy nearly as much as you thought I did, and perhaps with what you've laid out just in the last couple minutes, perhaps I'm more familiar with it than I might think. But there has been... I've had a hard time with it in the Marvel game. And I said, if you'll notice, there hasn't been a villain. And you said, yeah, that surprised me because... And I went, let's grab the mics. Oh, hold on. So, villainy in the... You said there's been a surprising lack of it in the Marvel game.
Well, I just mean there's not... You have not created an NPC that is the overarching antagonist to the PCs.
Did you think that was what was going to happen?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, for example, you have, in my opinion, have been presenting much more of a game that has obstacles, but otherwise you're letting the players themselves be their own villains.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Dr. Wells is more of a villain than anything that I've interjected so far.
What? I'm an antagonist. I can't antagonize?
Yeah, you can. It's okay.
Credit for that goes out to Gamers 3 Hands of Fate.
Nice. I'm an antagonist. I can't antagonize.
It's my favorite line ever. Matt Vansel is so awesome.
So, but it's very funny because you just sit back and go, I'm not the villain. I'm not a villain. And it's because you're right. Unless you're metagaming it from an outside standpoint, the things that you have done have been things that are just they would make sense that any sane, semi-rational person would have done. Like, I've got to get in, and I don't know how. I need somebody with the power to crack an egg. This guy has strings that he can pull.
Right. Or, for the Lex thing. Or, like, I destroyed a planet, but it was an accident. I didn't know that was going to happen. Who would know that was going to happen?
It still made me smile. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen but you were like, and now I will build this up. I was like, ooh, really?
I think there's something, like maybe it's the expression I get when the world backfires on me, but you just love
it.
Making it backfire on me.
It is like milk and honey. It is just, well, and that's the favorite thing. Okay, because because I talk about not having a villain or the well, here's Dr. Doom. This is a villain. He's the obvious bad guy. Like, when you look at the Fantastic Four, their nemesis is Dr. Doom. I mean, there it is, and we're done. When you look at Charles Xavier, Magneto. They are, they were, and it's even richer that they were once friends, and then they had this parting of the ways, and now they're Brotherhood of Evil Mutants versus the X-Men. And it's like, here's these very similar creatures that end up on polar opposites of the views. But there's not, in our game, there's not a villain. There's not a Dr. Doom. There's not a Magneto. There's not, that one. There's not an Apocalypse yet. Trust me, we're getting there. But I believe in life that people, that I wanted to say that life itself was villainous. But I really don't think life is villainous. I think life is pretty darn good if you just let go of all the drama and the pre-programmed stuff that you bring to the table. Mm-hmm. I think people as a whole are villainous enough to themselves that is more than enough villainy. We're in season 2 now, so
I agree.
You've done it. You guys have done it to yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that on the level of the Marvel story that we're telling. I agree with that on the level of real life.
Yeah, well, and it was from I started this with a pin drop. Okay, here comes a spacecraft plummeting towards Earth. What do you do?
Well, and that's like Marty. Marty wants us to be more of a team. And I agree with what Marty's trying to accomplish. But the simple fact is, in order to be a team, we have to have a group objective.
Working on it.
Because right now, because the problem is that, like, for example, a bunch of aliens land and start destroying upstate New York. Wells doesn't care.
Yeah.
That doesn't make him a bad person any more than you're a bad person for not caring about the earthquake that you heard about in China the other day. And it's not that you don't care. You care. I mean, I care. I mean, you stop and you go, man, that sucks. You look at the pictures and you go, oh, that's awful. But then you go back to eating your Cheerios and worrying about how you're going to pay your electric bill.
Yeah. Then it's NIMBY.
Yeah, you're not picking up a shovel and going to help people dig people out, and no one expects you to. So it's a situation where the problem is that Marty wants to be the kind of hero that aliens land in upstate New York, and he cares.
Well, yes.
And Guardian Angel should be that kind of hero too, but Wells isn't. I don't think that Jackson's character is.
And to a degree, in a really somewhat deafening but unsettling manner, I don't think, for as mean a game as he talked, that Caesar 1 was far enough down the line that he would. I mean, he would through obligation, but not because it was a deep-seated belief. It was, I think, because it was what was expected of him. Right.
I would agree. I think he would agree too.
And then when we've got Jimmy. Something tells me Jimmy's going to turn out to be far more of a moral character, far more of a, gee, I really do care, than he plays his off the hip, off the cuff, well, I'm just here to...
It very well could be. I can't really comment. Wells has had no contact with Jimmy yet.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You guys haven't met.
Mm-mm.
Meehaw. We're going to have fun with that. I think that'll be a blast. But the villainy... Well, so the spaceship comes out, and the first response is, get her, Ray. Good plan. Get her, Ray. You know, that's always going to turn out well. We've all seen the opening of that movie. And the idea is start shooting it down, which I thought was funny. Like, we need to disable this craft. Now, mind you, all Guardian Angel had to go for was this giant trough where it had plowed through the city. Now, you do realize that could be because you guys shot it out of the sky and it made an uncontrolled landing, right?
Well, Wells knew that. That's why Wells was trying to do things like look inside of it.
Right. So
he assumed it crash landed.
Right. So there was step one, and like a bowling ball, the thing's round, so it's just going to keep rolling, right? It's not just going to go and stop.
Right.
It's not like a lawn dart. So first, you guys, the majority of the group, not all, were trying to bring it down. Then the most miraculous thing, it was like, okay, well, we're going to do this. Let's do this. Do you surrender?
And all of our egos fired like we were all in the same... What was that child's toy with the... You stick little pins in it and it would glow?
Operation?
No. Light Bright.
Light Bright, yeah. Okay.
Right, our egos flashed like we were all in the same Light Bright, and he just turned it on, and we went, no.
Except for one. The guy that could talk to him and went, yeah, we will.
Oh, that's right.
And he went, yeah, we surrender. And it was amazing to see everybody else in the group go, USA, we're America. What are you doing surrendering? Brrr. I mean, it offended people's sensibility. Like, we're not. And surprisingly, the person that I think was most offended was Marty. In this weird sort of, he's always hit me as this sort of to the side, not real, like fringe-ish sort of, holy cow, he came, no, we will not surrender. And it was like, where did this come from? It was interesting. It was very, and there's your plot. There's the villainy. Like, the villainy is that first you were trying to shoot down a friend. Well, that's a friendly. Well, that's villainous enough. Then one of the party, in essence, far before Dr. Wells does anything, one of the party betrays the rest of the party by surrendering to the aliens.
Although,
I mean, that's a betrayal.
Well, yes, but I think at the time it was just a pragmatic move. I don't. Think
sure. Sure. I don't think it was motivated by any.
It's not like we had a huddle and we said, all right, we're not surrendering. We're not taking a knee. Break on 3, and then he walked up and went, "We surrender."
Yeah. No. It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
But it did have that very sort of, I'm gonna call I'm calling an audible. We surrender. Like, wait, what? And the rest of the group went, wait, we did what?
Yeah.
And that's going to inform where we're going here shortly, story-wise. Just thought I'd let you know.
Okay.
Tee-hee-hee.
I mean...
So that's the villainy, though. But when I say the universe is villainous, you guys are villainous enough to each other that we don't need a big bad guy yet. Or at least we haven't until this point. I mean, then there was the whole, let's go kill Superman again. That had its own thing.
Okay, Scott. Nobody said, let's go kill Superman again. All right? The objective was to go help Superman. We had the most heroic of intentions.
Well, the path to hell.
And you rammed it 12 inches deep into my colon with no lube.
Ouch.
With the soul thing.
Well, that was to make the point with somebody else, but it
yeah.
just went. Well, now, mind you, did I tell you about the conversation that I had with one of our listeners? Did I give you that conversation?
Which conversation?
About the soul.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Where he went, well, the first thing you needed to do was put his soul back, and then it would have been fine. And I was okay, so at least one of our listeners got where I was headed with that without any sort of me needing to say anything. That there was someone that was shouting at their iPhone going, no, you're doing it wrong, which is good.
Not all of us are the Kwisatz Haderach of comic book lore.
This is true. But it's good to know that we can hit, the entire spectrum.
Although, I give it to you, man. That was one of my favorite scenes.
Oh,
ever,
it creeped
ever.
a handful of people out at the table. Folks that just went, I know, and when you'd say, I know, we'll do this, and then it went wrong, and people got weirded out, immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went oh. Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. He's still Was it too?
Repel Bone seemed like a brilliant idea.
Because you were just trying to push him away.
Yes.
Just get off me.
Yes.
Yeah. You weren't waiting on. Oh, jeez. Yeah. I liked that the eyes went in different
directions. Oh, man. Man.
Because I thought, gee, an entire structure of the body with no bones in it. Think of how much fun we could have with this. And then the crowd, I think the players just went, whoa, what are you doing, sicko? I had fun with it. That's all I'm saying. So, okay. So Villainy. I mean, it's provided its own.
Well, I mean, yeah, the pervading environment we're in right now is, with party members like this, who needs villains?
Right.
I mean,
Well, but even when you had your one-on-one and you went in and saw the two potential futures, both of those carry their own, both the good outcome or best outcome, as we saw from the choices that we had, all the way to the worst outcome, both carry their own implicit villainy.
Sure. There's no unicorn in that option set. And that's the real world. There's trade-offs with everything.
Yeah.
And there's a certain kind of villain that's just the villain of, look, someone has to decide.
Yeah. And you're going to be labeled the bad guy.
Yeah. But humanity will move forward.
Right. And for some, that's the price that is paid.
And for the city, I can take it. I will take it. I will take it all.
Nice. So there is a unicorn there. There was a unicorn solution.
No?
Yeah. Trash the AI, destroy the core, and not know. Then it's a completely blank slate and anything could happen.
Which is crap, because then you're not deciding for the sake of righteousness and justice and self-determination.
True.
You're not deciding because you're too much of a punk.
Right.
To make a choice.
Because
it's not sparing yourself.
You don't have the intestinal fortitude to step up and do anything, let alone what's right.
And you're running the risk that the technocracy wins, which is the morally repugnant outcome.
Well, we talk about moral repugnancy, but come on.
You can't see at home. I'm rolling my eyes at him.
Right. But even then, the unicorn, such as it is still not without peril and definitely not without villainy. I mean, it's still there. It's still an element. You can't avoid it.
That's not even a unicorn. That's a giant shitlord. It is.
It is. Golgotha demon is what we call it.
Golgothan.
Golgothan, yeah. Yeah, that would have been a bad thing. But no, I'm with you. And we're going to see how this all plays out. I'm working on one pivotal nexus. And once I can get that pivotal nexus figured out, then I think I'm good.
Well, you've got the stage set because, hypothetically speaking, you've got Wells pre-positioned for villainy because he thinks it's the perfect villainy. He firmly believes in what he's doing. He will pay any cost for the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the downside to this choice is the massive amount of death. And because of the way you framed everything up for him, he will stand by, watch, and or hasten us towards death. to make this happen.
Well, it's not hastening us towards death. It's you want to cross the bridge, you got to pay the toll, right?
You want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. Right?
Well, yeah, and the omelets are tasty and delicious.
But that's the thing about that ethical quandary, okay, is that you can sit there and make that argument. You can say, well, okay, you say you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, but who are you to decide that? You don't have the right to decide that. You can say the ends justify the means is debunked because if you use these means, then you lose the very ends you were striving for.
Right.
Yada, yada, yada. But what all those arguments essentially end up doing is leading to a position of doing nothing, and then someone else who will act determines the outcome.
Yeah, and you lose all agency in the process.
Exactly.
So I've always thought that you got to break them. You want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. The best counterpoint to that I've ever had delivered to me was, okay, let's start with your children.
Right.
And then I'm like, about that omelet thing, I'm thinking maybe we could do a schmear, I mean, maybe I could get a bagel with some cream cheese. Are there some toast, perhaps? Some bacon? I don't know.
The problem is when you talk about rules that govern a society, whether you're talking about economic rules or legal rules or whatever, you can't. That's like the argument of, well, if it saves just one child. Well, you can't run a society that way.
Right.
Because what you've essentially done is you've taken the least common denominator approach, and the least common denominator is near zero. So what I'm saying is if you say, I'm going to break a few eggs, let's start with your children, that society will do nothing.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Because I'll guarantee you, my first thought is, no.
Yeah.
So how do we get it? So, and ultimately, again, I remove my agency from the process, and what that relies on, which is even worse than the lowest common denominator, in my opinion, to argue your point, I think if you take the lowest common denominator, which is near zero, and then give it the twinge of insanity, just the balls to the walls crazy that is necessary to have that question posed to them to go, we're going to start with your children, and have them go, all right, that's a great idea. Then to go, whoa, what just happened here? And now we're off on a course that's like, hey, let's gas them. Whoa, yeah, scary as hell.
Well, and it's one of my favorite things about villainy.
I mean, there's villainy.
Well, yes, but a real villain doesn't see themselves that way.
Right. Well, no single drop of rain considers themselves responsible for the flood either.
I see your point.
But you're right. Villains never wake up in the morning and go, another day of villainy. I'm the bad guy. They don't. That's not how that story. If it's a good story, at the very least, they don't wake up thinking that hey, I'm the villain. They wake up and going, hey, man, times have been rough, and I've had to do some things that I may not like, and that but it's for the betterment. I'm not the bad guy here.
Right. And
then it becomes this now. So does villainy jump over to super villainy when they're what's the pivot point there?
From villainy to super villainy?
Well, no. What's the pivot point? Because villains wake up and they go, "Hey, I'm not the bad guy here. I'm doing what I'm doing for my people, or I'm doing what I'm doing to save humanity, or I'm doing what I'm doing for." When does that pivot over to? Yeah, this stuff I'm doing here, this is not right. But. I'm going to do it anyhow.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? When it's just like, well, maybe I'll be the bad guy a little.
This is the classic transition of the villain of principle to the villain of what I call the rejected villain. So,
okay, tell me more. I'm not following.
What I'm framing up here is, so you start off with a villain and he's a villain, but it's principle. Okay, so he's doing what he's doing because he believes in the idea, or she believes in the idea. And they think they're doing the right thing even, and so on and so forth. But what happens is, and this is what I loved about Smallville, where we got to see early Lex turning into Lex.
Right. And I haven't seen that yet. I need to go back and watch that.
What we see is a person who is prejudged because of their family name, who keeps trying to be a good friend, keeps trying to be right, to do the right thing,
right,
and to meet all his obligations and do the right thing, yada yada, and somehow keeps ending up in the position of people thinking he's a giant douche over and over again, until eventually the villain goes, and we talked about this earlier. Well, if I'm going to be perceived as this, I embrace it.
Yeah, if I'm going to be labeled the bad guy and you're going to treat me like this horrible villain all the time, well, then you know what? I might as well get the benefits that go along with it.
I mean, for example, and I saw a lot of this. This is going to... Look, if this upsets you, but it's a perfect example. I saw a lot of this with Sarah Palin's endorsement speech of Trump.
What do you mean?
Well, look at what she really said, but more importantly, the emotional tone she was projecting, right?
Okay.
Her endorsement of Trump was, they think we're a bunch of redneck fools. Well, we'll show them a bunch of redneck fools.
Yeah, now that you put it that way, there was a twinge of that or more.
There's basically, she's going through and she's like, look, this is how we are judged for having the beliefs we have. Well, I say, so be it. And, you know, anytime a political leader gets to that point in a speech and they start going, well, I say, bam, and I say, bam, well, then I say, bam. You have hit that territory.
Yeah.
You know, you really have.
Yeah, you really, really have.
Because what you're saying is that we are locked into being perceived this way. So rather than try to fix ourselves, I say, fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's forget fixing us, and let's just do us, baby, with wanton abandon. That's the subtext. Let's let go and dive in. And, you know, she's framed it as leadership.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I think happens with these villains. I think they hit a point where they go, look, I'm out. Because in Sarah Palin's mind, she is trying to save America. She's trying to preserve values that she thinks are sacred. I mean, it's making me nauseous to say this, but these are all this is how she sees herself. She sees herself as this lone person struggling to do the right thing, surrounded by jackals, right? Struggling towards the top of the mountain to keep the sacred flame alive. You know, that's how she sees herself.
So we're well into delusional, but go ahead.
But, you know, seeing herself that way, whether that's, you know, true or not, is obviously debatable. But the important part is that she has hit a point of going, I'm not going to ask myself whether what I am doing is right or not.
Well, that's the definition for radicalized behavior. Is it not? I'm not going to ask if it's right or wrong anymore. I've embraced the villainy, so I'm just going to keep on trudging.
Sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, and so that I don't, the left is just as guilty of it in certain sectors, too.
Oh, absolutely.
With certain individuals.
Oh, absolutely.
Her speech was a perfect example of what I'm talking about with these villains. I'm not trying to pick on.
No. But it's what happens. It's the transition along the spectrum, along the paradigm where you just finally go, you know what? Fine. If I'm, you know, I mean, when I broke up with my ex-fiance, we had been together for 10 years, and I was trying to be as nice as it finally got. I spent the last 4 months together with her, calling her Warden.
Wow.
Like I went, can you pass the salt, please, Warden? Thank you, Warden. And like I was being all night, but I would literally address her as Warden regularly, like throughout the day.
And, you know, I've been in similar situations, and it always forces us to stop and go, and this is probably a subject for a whole other podcast, but to stop and go, what was it in me that didn't value me enough to tolerate that dynamic?
Yes, where you ended up on the end of that stick, and went, why is it that did I have?
Why did I give that person so much power?
Exactly.
You know,
Why did I allow the subjugation of me for that other person? Like, what did I see? What was the value there? What was deficient in me that I put on these blinders, or that I tied myself in that way? That I gave this person so much power that it was unbelievable. That finally it just snapped one day, and it was just like, we're not having this.
Right.
And so the last 4 months, I called her warden, like to her face in conversation, in front of her friend. Like, it didn't matter where we were. We worked together.
Wow.
And I would call her warden. I mean, it was like, this was a thing. So the day I'm moving out, like, she's just all, you're going to be the bad guy. And I finally just went, you know what, you're right. I'm done. We're done. I'm out. Leave me alone. Get away from me. How could you say that? Because if I'm the bad guy, then go. You know, at least if I'm the bad guy, then at least I'm going to make it easier for me. Get out.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those where, but through that spectrum of paradigm, there's finally when you're like, well, I say, and they say this, but I say, when you get to that point where you've got to just, you're banging your fist on the table because you so desperately want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go.
Well, and I hesitate to bring this up because I'm an outsider to this process, but I think it's worth noting to bring into the whole this whole concept, the idea of black criminal activity, right? I'm not saying all of it, but I'm saying when we're having this conversation, it's interesting to think about a young black male who's out there striving, trying to do the right thing. Society keeps reacting to him like he's a threat. Keeps reacting to him like he's up to something. Keeps reacting to him like he's dangerous. There have got to be stories out there of young black males who eventually went, fuck it. And they were good people and they were not criminals, but they were met with this expectation so repeatedly that they eventually just said, you want to see a criminal? I'll show you a criminal.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I mean, this is if this is what you expect of me, fine. Right?
And that's purely a product of the environment. That's the villainy of society, taking someone who, if society were not as villainous to them, the outcome would have been completely different. I can guarantee you that exists far more than you might think.
Oh, no, I agree. I believe in the agency of the individual. And
sure.
I even believe that people are ultimately, responsible for the overall arc of their lives. Okay? But the thing we don't want to admit is far more of human behavior is environmentally and not genetically environmentally determined than we want to admit.
Well,
we're like water. We rise to the expectations of the container we're placed in.
True. However, I would counter that, and that's this is a whole discussion of its own.
Oh, right.
But I really think that when you say environment more than genetics, I would counter that and say genetics play a part in it from the standpoint of how many other people are squeezing on that container that we expect this person to fit.
Well, for example, they've done really interesting work with a good chunk of people have sociopathic genes. Okay?
Oh, we've met. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
But if they are not put through the trauma
true
in early youth, those genes never switch on. Okay? So what we have evolved are potential adaptations to different environments, different environmental pressures.
Sure.
And if those pressure plates are never, switched, well, then they're never switched. So the thing is, people keep pointing to genetics there, but the real cause is environment, because if the environment never does what it does, then the genes never get switched.
Right. But my counter to that is but there are so many people that build up the social paradigm that places the expectation of you're a criminal, you're a bad person, that is such a societal thing that so many other people contribute to the environmental factor. that number of people are affected by their own dispositions genetically to go, well, you're different than I am, so I must place that social pressure on you. Your skin color is different. You look different. You're taller. You're shorter. You're a different skin color. When you get enough of those people together who are genetically disposed toward, I'm afraid of what's not like me, that contributes to the environment that those people are in, that they are ultimately doomed to failure because of a myriad of factors.
And I guess what I question there is, I see the point you're bringing up, but
Right.
I've seen research that goes both ways.
No, fair enough. No,
Yeah, for and against it.
I could be talking out of my left ear.
There's
That's
research
perfectly fine.
There's research that I read recently that shows that race favoritism, very well could be a genetic thing, a baseline human thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not just to certain subcultures or subgroups, but it could be hardwired in all of us.
To favor our own demographic.
Right, sure.
The studies I've read, they were doing experiments with very young toddlers and sharing, and these sorts of things.
Interesting. Okay.
But I'm not an expert enough in that field to know what's good research from bad research.
Sure.
But then I've seen studies that go the opposite way. Of course, representing the thing that we all want to believe, which is that demographic preference, can't talk, is in fact learned behavior.
Right.
It's not inborn. It's something we then pick up from the environment.
Sure.
Right. Personally, I lean towards the latter, only because I see children interracially play with no real bias. Doesn't mean they're not mean to each other, but it's kids being mean to kids, not I'm being mean to the black kid.
Right, right. Well, and that's the thing, is that I really don't mean to be this way, but I'm sorry, but we live in the middle of central Indiana, and I have seen enough folks who have been, hey, I don't like that person because of the color of his skin, and sorry, you teach that to your... Where did you learn that? I learned it from you! That's just you learn it from your parents, and it's been a very difficult road for me to go down, but both myself and my wife have in-laws who are somewhere between a little bit to a whole hell of a lot of bigoted racists.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far are we talking? Like, it wouldn't surprise us if on the weekend they put some hoods on.
Well, maybe not that far, but
Okay.
we're not saying we wouldn't donate. Like,
okay.
Like, wait, what? I mean, and what I found from one particular side of is a surprising degree of sexism that just blew my mind. Like, hey, maybe we could sign the grandson up for this really, really cool thing. What about the granddaughter? Oh, I never thought about that. Like, really? Like, you want to give the male child the benefit and never thought about the female child. Interesting.
Well, here's an interesting
wow.
question. So I obviously feel that's crap because I think, for example, I think girls that want to play football should be allowed to play football. But let me ask you this: usually when this is brought up, it's within the context of we have a girls' league. Okay.
Oh, well, then, yeah, you're in. Then we're in.
But that's great. A number of people are now starting to bring up this whole concept of gender integrating sports.
And that's where we have a problem.
And that's, I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I'm kind of fancy with the whole thing. I see both sides.
Okay. So I coached 15 years of Little League football down in the Center Grove area, south side of town.
Well, let's not talk football.
I want to talk football.
Let's talk basketball.
Okay, well, I'll extend this to basketball.
Because so much of football is velocity and body weight.
Yeah.
And if we are sexually dimorphic as a species.
We are.
So that becomes an issue.
No?
No?
Well, now we're back to Kenny versus Morty, and it's a damn shame what he did to Kenny. It's that, who wins, puissance or fleetness? If you can never hit me, I might only be able to tap you, and it might take 1,000,000 taps. But if you can't ever hit me, I don't care if you're built like a freight train.
Well, yeah, but we both know there's a stereotypical, prototypical wide receiver frame, and it's not tiny.
Right. But there are the surprising degree of Wes Welkers in the world of who's that annoying one from the Jets, that midget. You know who I'm talking about. Who's just like the teeny tiny that you're like, whoa, he got around me. How did that just wait, what? And they're small framed people who you sit back and go, how does this even work? They're quick, they're running slants, they're running outs, they're running, and they get the ball and they're down and they're wiry and it's hard to hit them. And and then when you're talking about younger sports, the type of sports where you're going to see the first integration of females into a sport like football, I'm sorry, a 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 5th grade male versus a 4th grade, 3rd grade. You right there?
I'm having mic issues. There we go.
There we go. A male child of that age versus a 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 5th grade female child. An 11-year-old boy looks almost indistinguishable from an 11-year-old girl. I mean, not to be that way. So how much bigger? I mean, we're not talking 6'5", 350-pound linebackers from, the Patriots, from the Colts, from the Bears. We're not talking we're not talking Brian Urlacher versus a ballerina. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about introductory Little League football, Little League baseball, Little League basketball. Okay. Seriously. Let's talk. So I spent 15 years coaching football down in Southside, and I spent 12 years coaching football up in Carmel. Okay. Up in the at the Carmel Dads Club. Okay. And toward the end of the Carmel Dads Club, there were 3 years when there were a number. 1 year we had 1 girl, 1 year we had 3 girls, the next year we went to 2 girls. Where they had a number of girls on the teams. Where we were like, yep, come on out and play football. There you go. I mean, it's not a big... Thankfully, because of the way the leagues went and the way I moved up with the child, with where I was coaching, I never had to play in a league that had female players. Okay? And now I'll switch to basketball if you want. The analogy works. I'm all for it. From an intellectual, pseudo-intellectual pursuit. It's great. The girls can play with the guys, especially 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. We're not to that, what was it you called us? The something or other.
Dimorphic?
Yeah, that one. Sure.
It just means one sex is physically bigger
than the other.
On average.
I know what it means. On average, right, typically.
Well, I didn't know if everybody knew, but...
Yeah, right, and I wasn't sure everybody knew. But when you're talking 2nd graders, come on. They're not that different. They haven't hit puberty yet. There's really not that huge of a difference, okay?
Sure.
There are some, with obesity being what it is in America, okay, there's differences in size. I'm not going to give you that. So when we're talking basketball, when we're talking, I'm all for it. Go for it. Let's do it. Put a girl on the thing. I'll tell you what. It was right before, it was my freshman year of high school. I went out on the court with a young lady who was in her freshman year of college, and she was on the basketball team for one of the local colleges. And I'll tell you what, we went one-on-one. I have never had my clock cleaned in basketball like I had by that young lady. And she wiped the court with me. I had a foot and 120 pounds on her. She beat me into the dirt. I was like, and she was like, I'm sorry, fundamental skills, if you don't have them. And just, she kicked my ass. And I learned something that I was like, oh, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm not really better at that particular skill set, so this is not my sport, so holy shit.
Well, hang on, but you had indicated that you have issue with it.
I do.
Somewhere.
Oh, I do. Because here's the thing, and here's what I ran into, and I explained this to several other coaches who were like, well, this is the greatest thing ever, we should do this. Okay, you're the coach of a team. You're the coach of a basketball team. It's all boys. You're going to go up against the team that has 4 boys and 1 girl.
Okay.
Could be their center because she's real tall and she had her growth spurt early.
Sure.
Could be their point guard because she's the same size as everybody else, but she's quicker, she's a little faster, she's got a little more mental acuity than some of the boys. We get distracted. I mean, we run around because we're goofs, and that's what we do, right? We're kids, we're guys, we're boys. That's what happens.
Sure.
You're the team that has the 5 young gentlemen on it. I'm coaching the team with the young lady on it.
Why do I have to have the sausage fest?
Okay. There's the first problem that I have.
What?
That's the first problem well, wait. Why am I the guy with the... Why can't I have... well, are we doing full equality and we're putting a girl on every team? That's number one. You mean every team's getting a girl. That makes it equal, right? Because somebody, coach, player, whatever, well, why did they get to have... See, it's a benefit. That's an argument that can be made.
Sure. I mean, I was more talking along the lines of... They have the option, and then merit, they just select the best players.
No, let's not get into how the teams are selected.
Okay, so you're saying that misogynist coaches will just not put women on the team? Is that...
And if they get beat, we'll then go, well, that's because, and there's excuses that, yes, that's one reason. Let's go to reason number 2.
I don't think that's a reason not to do it.
You're absolutely correct.
Because by that logic, we would have never integrated the South?
Correct. So let's continue.
Okay.
I'm just saying, it's an argument. I don't want to have to put up with that BS. Let's go on to number 2. Okay, and here's the big one. You've got the team with the 5 young gentlemen. I've got the team with the 1 young lady. Can you win? We're gonna play a game.
Yeah.
You can?
I have more points than you, and at the end of the game, I win. Thanks.
Oh, so you beat up a team with a girl on it. Wow. Okay. Nice win. Oh, of course you did. You put up more points.
Well, but again, that's...
So let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's say at the end of this contest, you have less points than my team. Your team got beat by the one with a girl on it. Go away. You can't win. Of course you could. We're a dimorphic species, so you should be able to kick. If you take one of their players off, what if a team of 5 guys went up against a team of 4 guys? Of course you're going to win. We'll put a girl on there, and it devalues and demoralizes and brings into question immediately the efficacy and ability of adding the female dimension to the team. You can't win.
Wait, so you're saying that because misogynists...
Yes.
Will have misogynist thoughts about the outcome of games.
You betcha.
We shouldn't put women on teams.
No, I'm saying we should. However, it is a no-win. There's going to be, in the interim, until it is accepted as standard practice, there is going to be, again... And this is, and I felt bad when I had this thought and was going to say it, and then I went, no. This is to stand up and be defensible about. Similar to the race integration, the gender integration is going on the sports level is going to engender a similar type of emotion of, well, gee, we brought this together, and there was a period of upheaval because, sorry, the white middle-aged middle-class males that run the patriarchal society in which we live, a chunk of those are going to have the misogynistic thoughts that they do. That's how it is. You may not want to accept it, but there it is. And that is going to generate its own degree of upheaval through changing this process. And it all revolves around the opinion of white males and their perspective on the value and worth of a female. And there is still a horrible degree of inequity in this society because the majority, I don't know what I want to say majority, but enough white males devalue females to the point of objectification, to the point of misogyny, to the point of, well, if my team has to go up to a team against a team with a girl on it, what am I going to do? If I win, I just beat up a team with a girl on it. If I lose, I lost to a girl. And there's the stigma wrongly and invalidly generated, but the misogynist will take away instead of going, gosh, I got beat by the better team. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I see what you're saying, and I'm not disputing that in the mind of such an individual, I mean, I would honestly dispute how much of the white male community would really chalk it up to that one way or the other. Not that they wouldn't exist.
Well, and that's the kicker is...
But I'm not denying that that's not what would occur in the mind of the person. I'm rejecting it as a reason not to integrate.
Oh, I fully...
like I said, I'm fencing. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't.
Well, and I'm telling you, we should. It needs to be done. Because there's value in that integration. I really think there is. On all sports, on all levels. Okay? I mean, there's the big conversation about Title IX, and let's have that conversation. I'm talking even before then. I'm talking like second grade, third grade, fourth grade. Let's do this. Let's do this. But having coached on the south side for 15 years and then coached on the north side for 12 years, do you know in an all-boys league, okay, there were 2 leagues generally, and the split was 1 year on each side, but there was second, third, fourth was its own league, and fifth and sixth was its own league. I coached in both of them for a number of years. The first time I did it was with both my brothers as they went through the grade systems. So I had a brother in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, then went back and picked up third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, down on the south side, and then coached for fun when I was up here on the north side. So with a same-gendered team, you would not believe. And these were 2 relatively... Center Grove is a more affluent community on the south side. They're like Carmel on the south side.
Yeah.
Okay? And the whining, the drama, little Timmy didn't get to play enough that goes on already is already so astronomical that you get these helicopter soccer moms and helicopter soccer dads who want to I think my little Timmy could be a running back. Dude, we're in a 6th grade league. Your little Timmy's 2 feet tall and can't see over, the dash. Like, what do you... Seriously? Okay, all right. Little Timmy needs to grow 3 feet and put on 50 pounds, and then maybe he'll be able to, touch the ball. Are you kidding? Like, there was so much drama that the minute you put a girl... And this was the horrible part. It was far less of an impact because I talked to some of the coaches that had the girl on their team. They were like, "Oh no, this is great. This is fantastic." Because as the species that we are, that difference in body frame really doesn't happen until after the age of 12, after the age of 10. For between 10 and 12 years, does it start to diverge? Typically, and it was again for a sport of football, where you're going to have 6 to 8 kids of that age lining up against 6 to 8 other kids, and they're just going to get in a pile and push on each other, and they're going to bump into each other and kind of, he went to the left. For football, it didn't make as huge a difference as you might think, as opposed to college or NFL football, where now you're looking at the difference. We're like, holy cow, like these are machines that have spent the last 15 years doing nothing but lifting weights and hating the world. Now you're going to unleash the okay. So I talked to some of these coaches that had girls on their teams. They loved it. They thought it was great. Where the butthurt came from was the coaches on the teams that did not have girls, because there was such a level of cognitive dissonance of, well, gosh, am I going to be beating up a girl? Do we run up the score? Gee, if she's playing end on one side and I know I've got guys that can overwhelm her, it's a strategic and tactical advantage to run the ball straight at her every single play, right? Oh, geez, am I going to be like, how is this going to be perceived? When theoretically, the guys that I talked to was like, we hope you run the ball at her. She'll duck, dodge, grab, and will be biting on your running back's ankle, and the rest of our team will murder you. And so it ultimately got, and what it really boiled down to generally, okay, and this is a generalization, but the majority of teams were like, oh, the girl's over on the left, so we want to run to the right. Because typically they were a threat. They got the game. They understood it. And as horrible as it is, during that unification process, the girls had something to prove. So they were going to fight a little harder than little Timmy next to her, who was just, his parents are making him play football, so whatever. So there's a huge dynamic there, and the problem came from the coaches that did not have girls on their team. There was all kinds of like, yeah, we should get them. Like, and then you sit back and go, whoa, dude, you got some anger issues here you got to work with. And the flip side of that is, well, I can't beat up on a girl or a girl's team. Or, well, what if we lose and we lose to a girl? And it's like, I heard a coach yell at his team at halftime when they were down against a team that had a girl on it, and he was yelling at him, you want to get beat by a team with a girl on it? I mean, it was horrible. And it was that pain process of integration. They got their asses kicked, by the way. It wasn't the kids. It was the coach. But there's a wealth of it's amazing to see, because it's just like we had the thought of, okay, well, and I don't mean to drag this back to the political stance, but it's like, okay, well, Barack Obama was president. We've had a black president. That's wonderful. It was amazing. Personally, I think he's one of the best presidents we've had. So yay, we're good now. And then along comes Trump and goes, hey, racists and bigots, rally to me. And they're like, hey, you mean we can come out of the closet now? Yay! And I was like, well, I thought racism and bigotry were, apparently not. Oops, there. Like, wow, okay. So you really think that, the gender thing, that's not, boy, you put a girl on a football team and, woo, I didn't know it was like, literally heard this coach just, you want to get beat by a girl, and then he got beat by a girl, and I was like, I listened to him, he's like, well, you boys keep your heads up, you did a good job, any other team, and then he kind of, because I think a parent pulled him aside and went, listen, asshole, you don't want to sit, like, that's the wrong message.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a complex, it's a deep subject, and that's just from the exposure that I had coaching Little League football. Yeah. All of that from Villainy, huh? And again, I'll tell you what. The coach in question that was we kicked his team's butt several years earlier, and he's a villain. And it's one of the best stories that I ever had. So when I coached,
well, not in his mind. In his mind, he's just trying to win.
Right, he's just trying to do right by his boys. Yeah. No, I can hear him saying it right now.
That's even the more positive way of framing it.
Right? Yeah. No, I just want to give these kids a good season, and I'm really here to help them win and to help them, build confidence and learn to play together as a team and
doing what these parents hired me to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and it's like that's a villain. Like this guy is a villain. Like it was just. And he was a villain. And it was, so several years earlier, when I coach football, I tell my children and my young men, I coached football up a little bit, up into the higher school levels as well. And I tell the young gentlemen who are in my, I always refer to them as Mr. and their last name. So if I was coaching you, it would be Mr. Elliott, okay? And then you would either call me Coach or Mr. Troiano. I knew all of my children by Mr. and last name. I knew some of their first names. The ones who I really wanted to make an impression on, I learned their first names because I would use that selectively. Like right. I'd be like, Mr. Elliott, we need to go. Mr. Elliott, let's do this. Mr. Elliott, do this. And then when I needed to pull you aside, I'd go, listen, Josh, here's what you need to do. You need to step this up. And it was like when I used that first name, when all I referred to you as is Mr. Elliott before, that it was like, whoa, Coach was like, he knows my name. It had an impact. And what I would tell the kids is I would say, hey, look, we're going to learn 3 things this year. 3 things. We're going to learn to keep our mouth guards in at all times. That's number 1. We're going to learn how to make a straight line. That's number 2. And we're going to learn how to count to 3. If we can do those 3 things, we're great. And they'd be like, well, I don't know. And I'd go, well, Mr. Owens over there has been standing with his mouth guard out for the last 5 minutes. And everybody turns and looks. It's like, oh, he's got it in his hand. Oh. puts it back in his mouth. It's like, okay, so we haven't learned that one yet. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, but boss, we can make a straight line. I'm like, all right, everybody line up. And it was like, somebody with, like, oh, hey, the guy driving that line had Parkinson's. Oh, now I feel sad. So it was like, okay, so I move him forward, move him back, move him forward. And I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run a quick 5-yard sprint. So that means I'm going to say down, set, hut. We're going to go run and turn around and get in a 3-point stance on the other line, okay? It's just that simple. I said, and you guys, but boss, we can count to 3. That's simple. It's like 1, 2, 3. We can count to 3. Count to 3 is easy. I'm like, okay, ready? Everybody, down, set, hut, hut. 3/4 of the team went and fell forward, right? Like on. I said, we're going on 3. We're going on 3, and I went hut, hut. And got them with the hard count, and they were like, I mean, a couple of them just started running, and I was like, I thought we were counting to 3. That was only 2. And they went, oh. So I tell them, if we can make a straight line, if we can count to 3, if we can keep our mouth guarded, we're going to have a great season. We'll nothing but winning. If we can get those 3 things down, it'll be never great. So we're in the playoffs up against Coach Villain, okay? And the way that I did it was I would put a wristband on the kids with the plays, okay? And there'd be a 2-digit number that would be the play. And it would be like, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, okay? And then it would be A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and the letter T as in Tom is for set. So I could do 1, 3, B, and that would be play number 13 on 2. So they'd go, okay, split right, 34 crossbuck on 2. Split right, 34 crossbuck on 2. Ready, break. And they'd come up, down, set, hut, run the play. So Villain's on the other side of the thing. He's yelling, he's screaming, he's kicking his thing. We're up by a lot, and he's just shitty with it. And I went, hey, Coach Villain, watch this. And I write out the thing, and I turn the whiteboard over, and it reads 128. And he went, my quarterback looks at his wrist. You saw his eyebrows knit, and he looked and he goes, Coach? And I said, you read it right. 128. Go. And he went, okay. And I see him step into the huddle. He's like, now listen, here's what we're going to do. He's going to do split right, 34 crossbuck on 8. On 8. Nobody jump on 8. Count it on an 8. I don't care if you stay down. That's fine. We're going on 8. Ready? Break. They come up to the line. He comes under center. He's like, down, set, hut, 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 hut. And at this point, the other side stands up. They're like, oh, this isn't even a play. Hut! And the whole team goes at the same time. Nobody missed a beat. They were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then ran for a touchdown on that play.
That's awesome.
Oh, he threw down his clipboard, kicked it out on the field, was telling the coach that this was illegal, that I ran so that you can't snap the ball that many times.
Oh, that's awesome.
He should have called the flag. Like, there should have been a timeout. They should have ran out of the play clock. I mean, he pulled everything. It was like, and the ref was like, he ran it on 8. They didn't jump. Like, there was no false start. Your kids weren't. I don't know what's touchdown. Like, what you need to sit down and shut up. It was amazing. But at that's when I took him off the field and went, ladies and gentlemen, we learned how to count to 3 today. That one is in the bag. Now we're going to work on the other ones. It is absolutely fantastic. It was great. So I will have that story forever. But it was one of those villainy stories where, gee, we learned how to count to 3. Your kids didn't learn how to. Okay, good. All right, there we are. It was amazing. It was really, really neat.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to watch because the fans because I had shown it to them, and then I turned around and showed it to the crowd. And the crowd was like, oh. And all the parents, because we talked about it afterwards, and all the parents were like, yeah, we knew you were calling that. And we were sitting there going, all right, Timmy, come on, Timmy. Even if you don't come off and block your guy, like, don't jump off sides. Just don't jump off sides. And it was absolutely, and the team performed. I mean, you'd have thought this was, they were just stock still. And all of them, boom, off at the same time. It was amazing. It was really, really good. So it was great. And I got to show Villain. And I literally was like, hey, Coach Villain, watch this. Go ahead, run it. Yeah, no, you read it right. Go ahead, get in there. And it was great.
Is he on Twitter?
No.
Darn. Love to tag him.
Right. Be like, hashtag Coach Villain. No.
Hashtag Throwback Thursday.
Exactly. Oh, that's. I don't know. You know what? I'll go see if he is on. I imagine he's on some sort of media.
Social media.
Toss
him a link.
A little Throwback Thursday. Here, you want to listen to this one? This is great. Oh, and he was just, red-faced, kick a dog. Like, just, he was mad. He was so angry. Because he thought it was some sort of trick. And it was like, no, it's hard work and discipline. Like, my kids went... the quarterback came back in and he went, look, coach is throwing this. He knows we can do it. We got to do this. It's been absolutely here. Don't jump off sides. And to their credit, to a man, it was perfectly executed. It was beautiful.
Well, and there's something to be said for, I love what you said about the female basketball. There's something to be said for basic skills making the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Because people always bring up this whole concept of what if you put U.S. modern special forces up against Spartan, phalanx, right? And you say, well, with the weaponry, the special forces would, decimate the phalanx. They better kill them all right away.
Yeah, like immediately.
Because the Spartans are eventually going to figure out how to use those weapons. It's not that hard.
Right.
And once they do, their internal qualities are such that they will now pwn you.
Yeah, and it's that fundamentals of, and again, I'll admit it. I got this young lady who loved her to death. She kicked my ass, and I'm not afraid to admit it because she drilled 3 to 5 times a week on the fundamental. I didn't have that. This was bad. I'm sad to admit it, I started to football her on the basketball court. Like, I was out muscling her. I was trying to, just push her out of bounds. I'm blocking her, trying to tackle her.
You're trying to get her in your zone of advantage, even if it violates the rules of the sport.
Absolutely. And I still got my ass kicked. It was just one of those where she was like, "Oh, you want to play rough?" And I was like, "Wait, what? Oh, ow, ow, ooh, ooh, ooh." She goes, "I know where the soft points are." I went, "Okay, maybe I don't want to do that." And it's so, but that comes back to the point of, could a girl have gone on 8? Sure.
I
mean, sure. Could a girl have executed flawlessly? Sure.
Well, you can make the argument that a girl is easier to get to go on 8. I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be.
Right.
For example, here's what I'm actually pointing to. One of the medical facts is that women weather temperature extremes better than men do.
Sure. I don't like when I'm cold.
Well,
I just don't like it.
Part of body fat composition, and they have more brown fat than we do.
What is that, like brown butter? What the hell are you talking about?
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, so the fat in your body.
Yeah, I got it. I'm here.
There's scientific terms, but to make it simple, there's brown fat and white fat.
Oh.
Brown fat sits, for example, around the base of your neck, where your trapezius are.
Yeah.
And it's in different places in the body. But what brown fat does is when it's exposed to cold, it releases the hormone that A, causes you to shiver, but B, tells your body to burn the white fat to fuel that process.
Really?
Which is why if one of the best things you can actually do for weight loss is cold exposure therapy.
Well, and that was Frank put up an article about that the other day.
But there's a shortcut.
Okay.
Try this and see what kind of result. And don't change anything else in your lifestyle so that you can isolate this variable.
Right.
I get this credit for this goes to Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Body. Get an ice pack at night before you go to bed. Put it behind you, right here. Make sure you're getting the base of your neck and the upper trapezius, that whole zone.
Right.
Colder the better, and read. Just read a book. Put it right up against your sin to get.
Oh,
get
see,
cold.
that just makes me just. Oh, that just. I mean, right there, I felt cold there. That's unpleasant.
You'll ease into it. Ease into it. Start with a towel, and just
no.
ease into
You
it.
know I don't do that. You know I'm going to be like, okay, so here's a block of ice. I put it on there for 40 minutes because you know I don't do anything half-assed.
Well,
you know
look,
I'm
just going to point blank you, Scott.
Right.
How bad do you want change?
Yeah, there you go. Because you know me, I'm like an extremist. I'm in. I'm either in. Look at the mutton chops.
Well, if you want to go,
baby, commit.
If you want to go in, the thing to do is cold tank submersion, which I can't even get myself. Now, I got
part
Psycho.
of me wants to do that so bad.
Check this out. I got Psycho, where I did what he did, which is I took ice water baths at
Seriously?
home. I did. Now I'll tell you this: I could only do it for a week. I literally got to the point where I was crying and I couldn't get in the bathtub again. Okay,
That's awesome.
but
That's extreme.
I did it for 1 week. I lost 4 pounds a day.
What?
It was ridiculous. Shivering is the highest caloric activity that the body can engage in.
Just south of getting it on, right? Da bow chicka bow wow.
It dwarfs getting it on.
Really?
There is no aerobic
'Cause
activity.
Getting it on is high calorie. You might as well bench press a Buick.
What it is, for example, researchers at the Arctic Station.
So let me tell you, I abhor shivering. I cannot stand it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't like it either.
Go ahead.
But this.
So where are we going with this?
Researchers at the Arctic Station, for example, they eat like 6,000 calories a day and have a hard time and lose weight.
Really? Because it's just so damn. Because they shiver all the time. Oh man, I don't want to shiver. Can I do this without shivering?
Well, that's what the ice pack is for. That's the low key approach that triggers the brown fat. If you isolate and trigger the brown fat, you can get a similar effect. You won't really shiver from that process.
Okay.
You'll adapt and get used to it. You might twitch a little here and there, but
And then you kick that into fat burning mode right before you go to sleep, which accelerates that even further.
right.
Holy cow.
The other
That
thing
could
you
be
can
just-
do is take your shower in the morning, and if you can stomach it, when you're done with your shower, turn it all the way to cold,
Yeah.
and then just force yourself to back into that ice cold water to where it's hitting right
Yeah.
there in the same zone, and
Yeah.
then just stand there for as long as you can. And eventually that...
We're in the middle of winter right now.
I know.
You know that's like crazy talk. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you what it is.
I'm just saying that the Japanese do it. I'm just saying that your body was designed...
You're saying, you're giving me this quote. You're saying, you do it. Everybody does it. You know you want to do it. Oh, man. I'm going to have to look into it. You know what? I'm going to start the ice pack. I'm not going to do it tonight. Obviously not tonight. But I'm going to look at that for maybe Saturday night, maybe Sunday night. Sunday night before work.
Yeah, you want to, if I remember correctly, and I'll look it up and check for it, I think you want to be sure you're laying there with it for at least 20 minutes.
Right.
Solid.
So is that like the only area that, or is it like ice pack in strategic locations 1, 3, and 6?
The other places you don't want to put the ice pack.
Why?
You just don't.
Oh. For the obvious reasons that I'm thinking?
Yeah, like first of all, you don't. Let me see. Well, you don't want to do inner thigh because that's too much even for me. I can't deal with an ice pack like that.
Yeah, that would be a bit much.
I remember there's brown fat there.
So I'm going to have to do a whole brown fat, like...
Research thing?
Yeah. I got to figure what
There's
this
white
out.
fat and brown fat. All this is white fat.
Right. Well, yeah, that's... I got a lot of fat white guy.
But no, brown fat's the good fat. It's the fat you technically don't lose. Like, if you do lose your
Right.
brown fat, you're in starvation.
So okay, because there's a little bit of fat in the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of fat in the wrists. But your wrists and your forehead never get, like, fat.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, whoa, man, he's going to look
Well,
at the forehead on that guy. Like, you never see that.
You can tell where brown fat is because it's the places where you can always pinch the skin,
Yeah.
but fat doesn't go there.
Yeah. Yeah, look at this. Intriguing.
But that's the reason you focus on that zone back there is that's the biggest region. So that's where you're going to get the most
bang for
the buck activation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. All right. How did we get to brown fat? From Villainy?
No clue.
Okay. All right. Well then, I thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. I like to bring that back from how we got off the. This is behind. You're listening to Behind the Masks, and this is where we encourage ourselves to go off the rails. We want to go sideways, and then we go. How did we get from this topic of villainy to here? And it's like, I got no idea. Okay. Well, then we're at a good stopping point. Mm-hmm. If you've got any questions, feel free. We're on Twitter, Asmodee369. Gaming W. Scott. We are on Facebook. You can find the Gaming with Scott page at Gaming W. Scott at facebook.com/Gaming W. Scott. We're going to be on Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram and Periscope shortly. We're going to start doing a lot more of those other various platforms, pulling the social media. If you have any questions, you can also email us, and we would encourage email listeners. We want you guys to hit us back at gamingwscott@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and have a great night. No, you need to say bye.
Bye.
And that'll do us tonight for Gaming with Scott presents Behind the Masks, a Southgate media production. You can always send us an email at gamingwscott@gmail.com or catch us on Twitter. Josh Elliott is at Asmodee369. Dan is at Malkware. Josh Jackson is at ActionJack853. And Rico is at R1CO. Or me, Scott T, at Gaming W. Scott. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Gaming W. Scott. Remember, superfans, the more you share, the more we make. If you love what we do, share it with your friends. If you don't love what we do, please share it with us. This show will only be made better by listener participation. Send us email or comments on Facebook, or send us a tweet of the things you would like us to discuss. We promise we will get your comments and topics on the air, and as always, you'll hear from us real soon.